From the time most of us start thinking about fertility, we hear one thing over and over again. It's about your eggs, your egg count, your egg quality, your AMH, and if those numbers aren't where you want them to be, the message you often receive is that there isn't much you can do. But a landmark study published in the journal Science in October 2025 out of UCSF is changing that conversation completely because it turns out it's not just about the egg. Hi, I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist and host of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. And this kind of research is exactly why I do what I do. Because what modern science is now confirming is something Chinese medicine has understood for a very long time, that the body is an ecosystem, that every part is in relationship with every other part, and that when we support the whole environment, we change what is possible. So today, we're breaking down this study, what it actually found, why it matters so much for women trying to conceive, and what you can start doing right now to nourish your ovarian ecosystem from the inside out. Let's get into it. For decades, the conversation about female fertility has centered almost entirely on two things: how many eggs you have and how good they are. That's what AMH measures. That's what antral follicle count tells us. That's the framework most conventional fertility care is built around. And egg quality and quantity absolutely matter. I'm not dismissing that. But Dr. Diana Laird, a professor of obstetrics, gynecology, and reproductive sciences at UCSF, and her team wanted to look deeper. Using cutting-edge 3D imaging technology, they mapped entire ovaries at the cellular level in both mice and humans and studied nearly 100,000 cells across different ages. What they found changed the picture entirely. First, eggs are not scattered randomly throughout the ovary the way scientists assumed. They are clustered in specific pockets, surrounded by supporting cells, blood vessels, nerves, and connective tissue. And as the researchers put it, the environment around the egg may influence how long it lasts and how well it matures. The egg does not exist in isolation. It lives inside a community, and that community matters. Second, this is the part that genuinely surprised the researchers. They discovered that the ovary is wired with sympathetic nerves, the same nerves that are involved in fight or flight response. And when those nerves were removed in mice, fewer eggs matured, even though there were more eggs in reserve. The nerves are helping to regulate which eggs get the signal to grow. Third, they identified a cell type in the ovaries called glia. These are support cells usually associated with the brain and the nervous system. Nobody expected to find them in the ovary, and yet there were, actively participating in the ovarian environment. And finally, they found that with age, it isn't just egg numbers declining. The entire microenvironment changes. Fibroblasts trigger inflammation, connective tissue scars, nerve density increase in ways that may be disrupting communication rather than supporting it. As Dr. Laird said, and I love this quote, ovarian aging is not just about the egg cells, but their whole ecosystem. Here's why this matters so much, especially if you've been told your egg quality or reserve is a concern. The conventional model essentially treats eggs as fixed. You have what you have, and while you cannot create new eggs, this research is showing us that the environments those eggs live in is not fixed. It's responsive, it's dynamic, and it can be influenced. Think about a seed. Two identical seeds can have very different outcomes depending on the soil they're planted in. One soil is rich, well-nourished, with good drainage and the right minerals. The other is depleted, dry, full of inflammation, and the seed itself hasn't changed, but the environment it's in determines everything about what it can become. That is the ovarian ecosystem. And this research is telling us that the health of that ecosystem, the blood flow, the nerve signaling, the inflammatory environment, the support of cells is not just a background detail. It's central to fertility. Now, here's where Chinese medicine has been ahead of this conversation for a long time. In TCM, we do not think about fertility in terms of isolated parts. We think about the whole body as an interconnected system, and we assess the quality of that system through the lens of qi, blood, jing, and the organ networks. Let me walk you through how this maps onto what the UCSF research found. The kidneys in Chinese medicine are the root of reproductive vitality. They store what we call jing, often translated as essence, which governs growth, development, reproduction, and aging. Jing is the deep constitutional resource that determines the quality of our eggs, the thickness of our uterine lining, and the overall reproductive capacity. When kidney jing is depleted through chronic overwork, stress, poor sleep, nutrient deficiency, or simply the natural aging process, the entire reproductive ecosystem suffers, not just the egg, the whole environment. This maps directly onto what the UCSF study found. Ovarian aging is not one thing declining. It is a system depleting across multiple cell types, tissues, and signaling pathways simultaneously. That is Jing deficiency, described in the language of cellular biology. In Chinese medicine, the liver stores and governs the blood, and blood nourishment is fundamental to egg quality and reproductive health. The liver also governs the smooth flow of qi throughout the body, and when liver qi stagnates, blood flow becomes compromised. Remember what the UCSF research showed about blood vessels. A companion study found that the earliest signs of ovarian aging began in the ovarian blood vessels. Vascular aging weakens the ovarian environment, reducing the signals and nutrients the follicles need, even when the eggs are still present. In Chinese medicine terms, this is the liver blood deficiency and liver qi stagnation affecting the fertility ecosystem. And the treatment approach, acupuncture, blood nourishing herbs, movement, stress regulation, is specifically designed to restore that circulation. The third piece is qi flow, and here is where that UCSF finding about sympathetic nerves becomes truly remarkable from a Chinese medicine perspective. They found that sympathetic nerves, fight or flight nerves, are woven throughout the ovary, and they regulate which eggs receive the signal to mature. When the body is in a chronic state of sympathetic activation, those nerve signals become dysregulated. The ovarian ecosystem receives confused instructions. In TCM, the free flow of qi is what allows every system in the body to communicate clearly and function well. When qi is stagnant, particularly when there's liver qi stagnation from chronic stress, that communication breaks down. The follicular environment becomes less hospitable. The body is in contraction rather than expansion. This is not metaphor. The UCSF research is showing us the cellular mechanism behind what Chinese medicine has been saying, has been observing for thousands of years. So what do you actually do with this? The most important shift is this. Stop thinking about egg quality as the only variable in fertility and start thinking about the entire ecosystem. And ask yourself, what is the quality of the environment my eggs are living in right now? Here are the areas I focus on with my patients and online clients. The research is clear that vascular health is one of the earliest and most significant factors in ovarian aging. In Chinese medicine, we call this nourishing and moving the blood. Practically, this looks like regular gentle movement, walking, yoga, swimming, to support circulation to the reproductive organs. It means staying well hydrated. It means eating blood-nourishing foods like dark leafy greens, beets, lentils, grass-fed red meat if you eat it, and deeply colored berries. And acupuncture has measurable effects on blood flow to the ovaries and uterus. This is not a claim I'm making. There is published research on this, and from a TCM standpoint, it makes complete sense. Nourishing kidney essence and jing. This is the foundational work. Deep rest, adequate sleep, reducing the drain on your system wherever you can. Foods that support kidney jing include bone broth, walnuts, black sesame seeds, kidney beans, eggs, and warming cooked foods that are easy to digest. And this is important. Jing is depleted by chronic stress, by pushing through exhaustion, by a nervous system that never fully rests. You cannot pour from an empty vessel, and you cannot nourish an ovarian ecosystem that is constantly running on empty. Here is where the sympathetic nerve finding becomes so personally meaningful to me. The UCSF research is literally showing us that the nerves inside your ovary are involved in regulating egg maturation, and those are the same nerves that respond to chronic stress. When we work on nervous system regulation through breath work, acupuncture, mindset practices, reducing the constant state of urgency that the fertility journey can create, we are not doing something soft and peripheral. We're directly influencing the signaling environment inside the ovary. This is real. This is physiological. And it is why I'm so passionate about bringing this work together. The UCSF study found that fibroblasts in the ovaries begin triggering inflammation and scarring years before it appears in other organs. In Chinese medicine, this pattern correlates with what we call heat in the blood or accumulated stagnation, creating inflammation over time. Anti-inflammatory nutrition matters here. Reducing refined sugar, processed foods, alcohol, prioritizing omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidant-rich vegetables, and foods that support the liver in processing and clearing what the body no longer needs. What I love most about this research and why I wanted to make this video is that it challenges the fixed, passive narrative that so many women receive about their fertility. You're not just a number on a lab report. Your body is not a static snapshot. The ovarian ecosystem is alive, responsive, and in conversation with everything you eat, how you sleep, how much you move, and what your nervous system is doing all day long. Yes, age is a factor. And yes, some things are beyond our control. I will never tell you otherwise. But the environment those eggs are living in, that is something you can actively, meaningfully influence. And that is worth everything. I hope this episode gave you a new way of thinking about your fertility, one that feels less fixed and more full of possibility, because that is the truth that both ancient medicine and modern science keep arriving at. The body is not broken, it's an ecosystem, and ecosystems can be nourished. If you want a practical place to start, I created the Be Calm protocol, ways to support your nervous system regulation and fertility from the inside out. It's grounded in both Chinese medicine and modern research and is designed to give you something concrete and real to work with right away. You can download it at michelleoravitz.com/be-calm with 2 M's. And you can also find it in the episode notes. If this information resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I will see you in the next one.